Hi, I'm really delighted today to invite Lizzi Jordan to have a chat with us. Lizzi is a very talented para-cyclist. She recently in 2023 won gold at the World Championships in the mixed tandem sprint in Glasgow at the UCI Paracycling Track World Champions, and they've been hugely successful at the Paracycling World Track Champions in Rio, taking home 3 world titles and gold medals. She's a very exciting and relatively new talent for us. So it's nice to meet Lizzi and talk about her journey. Hi, Lizzi.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
No problem. We're delighted to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Lizzi. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
So my name's Lizzi Jordan. I'm from Guildford in Surrey, down south. I was fully sighted for the first 19 years of my life. In 2017, I contracted a very rare form of food poisoning. E. coli it was from the food poisoning. And it basically resulted in me being in an 8-week coma with multi-organ failure. Doctors were unsure on several occasions whether I'd actually pull through, several complications along the way. And unfortunately, I woke from the coma. Well, very fortunately, I woke from the coma, but unfortunately, I woke with absolutely no vision. So the doctors, it was obviously the last thing on their minds, my vision when major organs were failing, like my heart and my lungs. But yeah, so I awoke from the coma and my vision had totally gone. And I was told that the damage was unfortunately irreversible. So I had to kind of tackle life from a totally different angle, going from being fully sighted to having literally no sight. So I had to quit university. I couldn't drive anymore. I had to basically start from scratch. And there were also added complications because I'd been so poorly from the food poisoning and in the coma that I had to learn to walk again. I'd lost so much weight. I mean, I even had to learn how to hold my head again, let alone walk. So it was a huge journey from then onwards to build myself back to where I am now. And it's just been such a roller coaster, but so exciting. And I've learned so much along the way, which is why I'm just so passionate about sharing my sight loss journey.
Just hearing that, Lizzi, the challenge of losing your sight, but to have all that illness on top and being probably very disorientated after 8 weeks in a coma, you must be an absolute credit to your parents and your family, because when somebody loses their sight, my understanding is that it can really affect family and friends as well.
I mean, it was obviously absolutely terrifying for myself, but also my family, because first off, they thought they were going to lose me, and then they had to adapt to a whole new way of life with me. And I'm a fiercely independent person, and I've always been fiercely independent. And it kind of, I'll be totally honest on here, it took my pride away to need help from people. And as you say, with an added physical difficulty on top of that, of being so weak from the coma, I felt like I was so vulnerable and so dependent on people. And as I say, it was terrifying, it was frustrating, it was every emotion under the sun. But I think that really fueled me to push myself to really step out of my comfort zone after I lost my sight, which I probably would never have had that mindset when I had my sight. And I think that's what's, spurred me on to achieve things now that I wouldn't have dreamt of achieving with my sight, let alone without my sight.
And Lizzi, it's not actually that long ago because you're still very young. So tell me, from somebody who lost their sight and had to learn to have the ability to walk again and just have a whole new world, really. How did you go from that to representing Team GB in Rio and Belgium?
Well, this is the crazy thing, and this is what I always like to share with people, is that it didn't happen overnight, and there were lots of highs and lows along the way. So as I say, in 2017, I lost the sight. 2018, I started to learn to walk again, get back on my feet. And I actually ran my first 5-kilometre park run in the September of 2018, which was a huge testament to my determination. I say I ran it, I walked, but it didn't matter. I just needed to complete it, and I needed to give myself targets to achieve, because everything in my life at that time seemed so bleak, like life as I knew it had gone. So I wanted to set myself some new goals and give myself a new sense of achievement. So yeah, I ran the park run in the September 2018, and then I set myself the crazy goal of running the London Marathon in 2019, which was much to my doctor's shock. They were all quite worried about it. They didn't know how my body would cope. My heart had previously basically failed in 2017, and a year and a half later I'm looking to run 26 miles. But again, I love a challenge, and I like to do what seems impossible. And as I say, I think I've really developed this mindset since losing my sight. I want to prove to people what you can do without your sight. Sorry, I go to say with your sight, without your sight, which is obviously quite surprising to some people. But I ran the London Marathon in 2019 for RNIB, and I raised about £15,000.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that was really incredible. And it just left me wanting more, and I was looking for more opportunities. And then I learned to ski, and I've done all these crazy things. I was back riding my horse. I mean, I was a horse rider when I could see, but it's a totally different experience without your sight.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. But I just found myself wanting to take on even more challenges without my sight. And I just kept setting the bar higher and higher. And then I came across a talent ID day of British Cycling in 2020, where you just went along and they just done some series of testing just to see if you've got any potential. The great part was that you didn't have to have experience in cycling, which I didn't when I was sighted. I could ride a bike, but I didn't really have the fitness to do high-level competition. I was a sporty child, but it wasn't really my field, cycling. So I went to a talent ID day, and I totally threw myself in the deep end because it was the first time that I'd been without my parents or a friend guiding me, and being in a foreign environment. It seemed really scary, but it was the best thing I could have done, stepping out my comfort zone, because from that, I got invited to join the foundation program, where they develop riders into sort of more competent cyclists, give you the experience on a tandem, and set you a training regime for at home, kind of 5 days a week of training. And it was really difficult, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I remember just even half an hour and I'm sat there dripping in sweat, but I loved the challenge, and it just made me thirsty for more and more. So I kept progressing. I done my first international road race in Belgium in 2021. And then I got some experiences to ride with some different pilots. So that's who rides on the front of the tandem. And yeah, I found myself at my first para-track world championships in Paris in 2022, where I came away with a silver in the 3-kilometre individual pursuit. The following year at the track championships, as you said, I got a gold and a bronze. And then this year I had the most fantastic experience. I came away from Rio as the triple world champion. I'm very keen to tell my story to people. I didn't wake up with 3 gold medals. It was a lot of hard work, and I enjoyed a lot of challenges along the way, and just embraced the journey, really, the highs and the lows.
Honestly, just listening to you, what an inspiration you are. You said something just at the beginning of that. I like to do what seems impossible. And that's a really lovely way to talk about, looking at life as an exciting challenge. But tell me, how do you stay focused and motivated? There must be days when you have down days after the experience that you've gone through.
Absolutely, and there are lots of highs and lows, and some days I think to myself, gosh, I would absolutely love my sight back. And who wouldn't, in theory? But I think it's just learning to adapt. The main thing that I've always focused on is learning to embrace what my body can do instead of what it can't do. And actually, sport is the perfect outlet for that, because I sit myself on a bike and I think I have to do a lot of work on a stationary turbo, obviously. If I'm not out on the tandem, I can't go out on a solo bike. But I have my music on, I listen to podcasts, I listen to motivational music, and it keeps me going. I'm always kind of dreaming of the next competition and what I might be able to achieve. And quite often I like to reflect, and I like to look back at where I've come from, and it makes me really appreciate where I've got to.
It is amazing. Since your cycling journey began, have there been any real standout moments for you, whether it's been an achievement or a challenge that you faced, or possibly even both? You have gone through a very quick learning period. What are those moments that you think, wow, I'm here right now?
There's been a few of them, but along the sidelines, what I've really enjoyed about my cycling journey is it's really helped me to develop as a person as well. I've had to go away with the team. I've had to become more independent. I've had to meet new people. And my teammates, it's so lovely because everybody has their own challenges, but we all embrace our own challenges and help each other. And it's just a really motivating environment to be part of. And I think probably my pinch me moment was the Para-Track World Championships in Scotland in 2023, because obviously it was a home championship. So the full crowds, everybody's cheering for the GB bikes. We won the mixed sprint, and the velodrome just erupted, and you could almost feel it. It was one of those moments where you didn't need to see the people cheering you or standing on their feet to feel the buzz in the velodrome. And it was one of those moments where I thought, I don't need to see here to get the adrenaline from racing the bike, to get the buzzing in my ears. And I just thought, this is fantastic. I really loved it.
That's lovely to hear, because I do think that my work, because I've been working in this role now for 14 years, people do say, do blind and partially sighted people still feel the same at sport? And I always find that a really odd thing to say. Of course they do. They can feel the atmosphere, they can feel the tension, they can feel the excitement, the situation in perhaps a very slightly different way.
Most of the world you interpret through your eyes, don't you? And when you lose that sense, it's a huge loss. Over the 7 years of having no sight, I've learned to adapt and enjoy the other feelings that you feel in your body. Like you say, the excitement, the feeling of your heart pounding before you start the race, the vibration of the stadium, and you learn to embrace all those other senses, and you get your fulfillment from those.
Of course. And also fulfillment for what you're achieving as an individual. You're there as an athlete representing your country. doesn't matter what impairment you've got, that is an amazing achievement in itself, isn't it? So, let's take away the impairment and just enjoy the experience, because I do feel that sometimes we view disability sport as something that disabled people do, rather than this is sport for people who are fantastic athletes who just happen to have a disability.
Exactly. It's the same honour to represent your country, like you say, whether you're doing it with a disability or not. And actually, when I always find when I'm at competitions, it doesn't even, like the thought that I can't see doesn't even cross my mind. It's not even at the forefront of my mind because I'm so focused, I'm doing my job and just absolutely enjoying every second of it.
And that's because you're training for your country and you're an athlete and you've got an athlete's mindset, which is why you're so successful. Talking about success, while selection for the Paralympics isn't till later this summer, how are you training and preparing for the potential of representing Paralympics GB in Paris?
Yeah, just training, obviously, with every intention and every dream of being at the Games, training as hard as we can, spending time in Manchester. So I'm based down south, so it's quite a lot of travel, quite reliant on my parents. So I'm not based in Manchester, and it wouldn't really be appropriate at the moment for me to live in Manchester, just in my predicament. But I'm very fortunate that I've got the support from my family to help me with transport, and the girl that I cycle with lives in Birmingham, so we kind of share the travel because we're sort of halfway to Manchester. So we've got a plan that works, and we spend time training in the velodrome and on the road because we cycle across all 4 events. So we've got 2 events on the track and 2 on the road to practice for and prepare for, really.
Well, good luck with that. Couple of more questions, probably a bit broader now. Who has been your biggest inspiration in sport? Who, as an athlete themselves, or somebody who works within sport, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher, is the person that has inspired you the most?
Yeah, it was interesting when you sent this question through to me, because I think if I had to say a sole person, my inspiration would be my coach. She's not my coach anymore, but Helen Scott. So when I first attended the Talent ID Day with British Cycling, she helped me. She's actually used to be a pilot herself, a very successful sprint pilot on the GB programme. So she's got a wealth of experience of tandems and coaching herself. And I think she really made me believe in myself from the start of my cycling journey. And it was kind of, it all just lined up perfectly because she helped me with the testing day, and then she wasn't my coach for a few years. And then she actually came onto our programme as a coach from being a pilot. And she coached me to my first World Championships gold medal. And that was really special. And I'll always remember that. She was there at the side of the velodrome, just like screaming for us. I could hear her like over all the rest of the crowd. And we've just always had a really special relationship because we've gone from almost both riders on the team to being a coach and a rider. Now she's a really good friend and she's always supported me along the way. So I'd say her, and also my teammates, really. I feel really inspired by previous stokers, previous pilots on the tandems, and all my teammates, like their achievements, like they've set the bar so high. GB para-cyclists have been so successful, and you just want to follow the trend, really, and just be part of that success.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although I don't participate in paracycling, I've watched it from afar as somebody who works in disability sport. It is an amazing sport, and that camaraderie, almost when I'm watching it on TV, or if I've been lucky enough and privileged enough to be at an event, you can feel it. You can actually feel that camaraderie come through the screen at times.
It's just a team and an environment that you really want to be part of. We have so much fun, we train hard, we all support each other.
That's amazing. And outside of sport, you've mentioned your parents travelling in their car back and forward up to Manchester. Are they your biggest cheerleaders, or are there other cheerleaders outside of sport who help you in life just generally?
Yeah, I'm so fortunate. I've got such a lovely support network. My dad, well, my parents and my family are my biggest fans. My dad is the typical cycling dad. You know, he always wants to help with my training. He's always shouting at me to go harder in efforts. He's follows me around the world. He was in Alabama when we were racing out there. He came to Rio, all the way over to Rio. He's so into it. He absolutely loves it. And everyone's just been so supportive. They all just amazed that I'm managing to achieve what I am after everything that's happened.
You are definitely the family inspiration. I can tell that just from this call. As somebody who's lost their sight, what do you see if you were talking to other athletes or people that want to become an athlete? And it doesn't have to be elite, it could be at grassroots. What do you think are the biggest challenges for blind and partially sighted athletes today? And how do you feel that we could best overcome them?
Well, can I just add, like you say, it doesn't have to be elite to enjoy sport, because throughout my journey, I've enjoyed park runs. We actually hired tandems out at a local national park and went out on them. This was long before I got into tandem cycling. I've actually attended one of the Limitless days at Lee Valley on a tandem. So there's been plenty of opportunities aside from just with Team GB. As you say, that is the penultimate for myself, but it doesn't need to be for everyone. You can enjoy sport at all levels.
Yeah.
I think the challenge with parasport, especially being blind, is it's a big spectrum. So myself, I'm totally blind. I don't have any vision at all. Some people under the blind umbrella may have a little bit of vision, but it's just that it's obviously tandems are a bit harder to get hold of.
Yeah, of course.
Knowing where to access tandems, which again, I think where the Limitless program has come in fantastically, giving people more opportunities. It's also finding somebody to pilot you on the front of the bike. So I'd say that that's a barrier for some people thinking, how is this actually possible? You know, I can't potentially afford my own tandem. They might not know of somebody who is happy to pilot them. So I think that's potentially the biggest barrier facing blind people getting into cycling, which, like you say, I'm pleased it is being combated. And I think another barrier is that when you're blind, sometimes it's hard to step out of your comfort zone because it's the unknown. You may not have been into cycling when you could see, so you might think this is a whole new challenge. But I think it's just finding your feet and just making sure the opportunities are there for everyone to find their feet and give it a go to see if they like it. Because my first time in a velodrome, I loved it. We went right up to the top of the banks and it was so steep. And I just thought, I absolutely love this. Might not be for everyone. They might prefer just to poodle outside around on the roads or something. But I think there is an opportunity to everyone, as I feel so strongly about, is just getting access to the bikes and people to ride with.
I agree with you that the access to the bikes and knowing where to find them, but also the cost of those bikes. We do know that I think it's 2/3 of blind and partially sighted people are in unemployment, and a standard bike is very expensive. So to get a tandem bike, it'd be wonderful if we could find a way to overcome that to make them more accessible to everybody. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I was extremely fortunate when after I got into the tandem cycling, we actually purchased one. I would agree they are very expensive. A great training tool, don't get me wrong, but I was very fortunate at my local club. I found somebody that would come out and ride with me. People also think to get somebody to pilot the front of the tandem is a huge challenge. It's quite adaptable for your normal cyclist just to jump on a tandem with a bit of practice. Communication is key because you are responsible for someone who may not be aware of hazards coming up. Might need a little bit more information, but along my way, I've done Ride London, which is another very accessible event should you have the bike to do it. I've done lots of different events with different pilots on the front of the bike. It's quite adaptable, and I think that's another limit for a lot of people. They think, oh, nobody will ride with me, but a lot of people are quite up for the opportunity. It's just, like you say, having access to the tools to do so.
Yeah, and actually, from the sound of it, once you've got those tools, it can be inclusive because you don't have to have the same pilot for the same sort of race. It sounds like it can be a bit more interactive. And just listening to what you're saying, it's the things that we need to overcome then is that confidence and being able to build people's confidence and actually communicating and letting people know what's available.
Yes, definitely. And as I say, if I rewind sort of 5 years, I didn't like stepping out of my comfort zone. And I think for blind people, you like a routine. You know, I like to be, when I'm at home, I know where everything is. When I go away, I'm a bit puzzled. I think that's comparable to jumping on a different bike with a different person. You might have your concerns. That's definitely a barrier. But like you say, the more practice people get and the more exposure people can get, the more confident they'll become.
I think you've been amazing talking to you. But before we finish, final question. What's been the best piece of advice someone has given you throughout your life?
I think I've got two pieces of advice here. I did roughly touch on one earlier. One is time. If someone said to me 7 years ago, you'd be here now, I would have laughed at them. And it takes time. You know, there's been a lot of months that have been really hard. You know, I first started running. I'd done my first 5K park run. I say I walked, run, and I actually threw up at the end. It was so hard. It was such a challenge for my body. And some people could have thought, I'm not made for this. Do you see what I mean? But I pushed myself. And
that point, possibly, you know, someone might have thought, oh, I'm throwing the towel in.
Yeah, I then ran a marathon sort of 8 months later, and it wasn't easy, but I didn't give up. So I'd say give time, because things don't happen overnight. You're going to have the ups and the downs. And I always am very, very passionate about showing step out of your comfort zone. If I hadn't have taken the plunge and gone to the Talent ID Day of British Cycling 2020, I wouldn't be here now. And it was terrifying for me to be with people I don't know, to be in an environment where I'm being guided by somebody I don't know, because some people aren't used to that. They've got their circle that they're happy with, their family and their friends that assist them. And actually it was the best step I could have taken, because I've made new friends. I've had the opportunity to travel the world. I've got myself so much fitter, and I've learnt a new sport. And looping back around to earlier, you don't need to be competing at Track World Championship to have reached your goal. Your goal might be to do Ride London, or it might be to do a group ride with some friends. Yep. You just set yourself your own goals and your achievable goals.
Absolutely. It might be just to ride around the block. Lizzi, I feel like you're such an uplifting person. You can motivate so many people. Hearing your story is an inspiration. Thank you so much for today. My takeaway from this is very much, I want to do what seems impossible. It seems that you are doing the impossible, and we're very, very proud of you. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. And if one person listens and feels inspired or feels like they want to try something new or achieve the impossible, like you say, then I've achieved my mission, because I'd love to have spoken to myself 7 years ago and said that it's not that scary, you can do it and you can achieve what you want if you put your mind to it.
You are a living proof of that. I'm sure more than one person will listen to this today and think, yeah, that's for me too. If you can change one person, which I'm sure you will, Lizzie, then you're doing an amazing job. Thank you.